everybody. My name is Corrie Pitzer, and by way of introduction, I'm the CEO of SafeMap, a consulting company in safety. But more importantly, I'm the co-founder of Safety on the Edge. Now, what is Safety on the Edge? It is a forum that we've established last year. First deployment of this conference was in Berkeley, and that was going to be a one-off activity, but it was such a success and such a great event for all of us that we decided to make this a permanent fixture. And we this year in Baltimore in May, 4 to 7 May, we're going to have this whole conference with a phenomenal range of speakers. And one of those speakers that you're looking at now is Shannon Frattaroli. She's going to be one of the speakers. But we've also aligned the forum with some very notable organizations. One is the National Safety Council, with whom we've established a partnership. And also we have reached an agreement with Johns Hopkins University, especially the Center for Injury Research and Policy that Shannon leads. And we do this podcast just in preparation of the conference to introduce our notable speakers, and also to give people a bit of an idea of what Safety on the Edge is going to look like in May in Baltimore. And of course, that's where University of Johns Hopkins is in Baltimore. We didn't select it for that reason, but it turned out to be a good choice for us because it's a lovely city, and we're really looking forward to that. So, Shannon, by way of introduction, can you briefly just describe the mission of the Center for Injury Research and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this podcast, and thank you in advance for visiting Baltimore for the Safety on the Edge conference. As Corey said, Baltimore is a great city. We're excited to welcome you here and enjoy all the food and the sights and, of course, the wonderful people that make Baltimore great. So look forward to seeing you in May. The Center for Injury Research and Policy is located in the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. So our center takes a public health approach to injury prevention, and we are all about reducing the tremendous toll that injuries take on the health and safety of the world's populations. So our mission is really to bring research, to bring teaching and education and service to communities in a way that will reduce the burden of injuries for all.
Lovely. And Sharon, about yourself, how did you get into this field? What is your own educational background, and where do you see things happening?
Yes, so I have been in this field for quite a long time, and I initially um, was attracted to public health because of the possibility. I mean, the mission of focusing on health at a population level, using research to inform policy and practice really resonated with how I wanted to devote my life. And when I thought about or started learning about the different areas of public health in which I could possibly contribute, one of the areas that really stood out to me was the area of injury and safety. And it immediately struck me that when we think about health, there's a tendency to think about chronic disease or even infectious disease. But if you stand back and kind of look at what factors really affect the health of individuals and communities and society, injuries play an outsized role. So in the United States, they are the leading cause of death for people between the ages of 1 and 44. So first of all, the injury or the safety problem really signaled to me the potential for impact, the potential for change. And when I started to get to know the field of injury prevention a bit, I was struck by two things. One is that there are interventions, there are policies and programs and ways that we can improve the safety of populations, be they in the workplace or in the home, in very concrete, tangible ways. This isn't the kind of problem that is overly complex, that is in need of solutions. We have solutions. Really, the challenge before us is figuring out how best to bring those solutions into practice and to continue to adapt what we know to the contexts in which people are being affected so that we can maximize the impact of prevention strategies in a way that will reach everyone.
Right, lovely. We've at Safety on the Edge, and our conference, our forum, is called Safety on the Edge, with one of the implications of what is on the edge. That is about searching for solutions, searching, pioneering for answers in the field of safety, which gave us a very strong focus on connecting with the world of academia and bringing the world of academia closer to the world of industry, because in so many ways, the industry, uh, they take what they can get, to see, okay, this is a system, this is an approach, this is a model, and let's work with it and see how it goes. There's not a lot of opportunity to really understand what new models may mean or what different approaches may mean. I think there's a lot of the time organizations are so busy that they just don't stop for that moment and say, okay, how do we scientifically approach this? And I think that's a bit of a weakness in many ways, and that's the kind of a gap that we want to play a role in as the organization Safety on the Edge. Hence our reach out to Johns Hopkins to see if we can start an alignment in this way and bring industry and academia closer together. So with that in mind, Shannon, what is it that attracted you and your team to partner with Safety on the Edge in this regard?
Well, I was, very moved by, the commitment to safety and the desire to really bring industries across the world together to focus on safety in a concerted way. And as you say, it's the primary job of industry is to produce, to create product, to make the world a better place through innovation, through jobs, through industry. And it's hard to do that well and do safety well. And partnership can alleviate some of those responsibilities, right? What we do in academia is spend time figuring out how safety can be a part of everyday life, be it in industry, be it at the home, be it on the road. So it just made great sense to think about partnering and leaning into the strengths of both the industry side and the academic side in a way that would allow for maximum opportunities to both understand one another and what we bring to the table, and more importantly, to apply what we can identify together as viable strategies for improving the safety of the workplace, of the products and services that are produced together.
Yeah, yeah. Having said that, there is this divergence of approach, and what are we primarily focusing on in industry and academia? And one of the things that strikes me is that in industry we tend to just want to find a framework that we can comply with, legislative or management systems. And once we've got this established in the organization, that becomes the model of operation. And we measure ourselves. Do we comply with this? And What is the failure rate measurement? Oh, that's accidents. It's a very narrow lens, and yet research uh, takes a much deeper, much more systemic view of the world. How do you see this play out in bringing the two together? Can you see some gaps that we need to be aware of?
Sure. So, you described beautifully what I think the potential for partnership really offers, which is, it's wonderful to hear about an industry or a field investing in identifying models that can help improve performance, that can add to safety, that can help make sure that workers, come home at night. Um, and it's also true that no model is perfect. And so from a research perspective, we're able to constantly be iterating and evolving models, developing new models to adapt to the changing circumstances that exist, to the new threats to safety that are very real, to new understandings of that interaction between human and process and context in a way that, again, if industry is focused as it should be on being good at producing product, at delivering services, there just isn't the time or expertise to really continue to evolve and be responsive to the new knowledge that comes from applying and examining how those models look and how they work and how they can be improved. But that's exactly what we do from the research side. And the opportunity to bring that into a partnership is tremendously appealing for those of us on the academic side to think about that direct application of our work is something that we all aim for and want in our work. And Safety on the Edge really offers the opportunity for those partnerships to not just come alive, but really thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the most pleasurable aspects of my involvement with Safety on the Edge was to establish the Lifetime Award that we last year, for the first time, we presented 4 Lifetime Awards to very notable academics. One was Professor David Woods, Carlene Roberts, Diane Vaughan, and of course we also presented our award to Professor James Reason, who sadly passed away last February before we could present it to him, and it was done in absentia. So we've elevated that award to a prestigious award now, the James Reason Award, and we're going to have a surprise announcement in Baltimore who's receiving that. And this year again, we have Todd Conklin, Amy Edmondson, Carl Wick, and Tom Kraus, so 2 practitioners and 2 academics. So I just wanted to put that into the discussion because this is where you talked about models, and we really need some clarity around models in organizations that we don't always have. And one that strikes me is the model or the whole modeling of causation in organizations. What causes accidents? And again, from a very practical perspective, we have all kinds of commercial tools to analyze accidents, tap roots and root cause analysis and axi maps and all kinds of great things. But they're all very much around specific models, and even simplified it to 5 whys so we can do it quickly because it takes a lot of time, for instance. Is there an area around this whole issue of causation that you think is a misalignment in the industry? Do we really grasp the models of causation well, or don't we?
Well, my guess is that there's quite a bit of variation with regard to how well, different areas of industry grasp causation. And so broad brush strokes are sort of difficult, I think, with this question. And I would also say that with regard to causation, there's also, room on the academic side for us to better understand how things really work in the field, to appreciate those causal pathways better. So it's an important area, and it's one that is, from my perspective, a good area for industry and research to come together and understand how we each work better in order to best inform both of our understandings of kind of those root causes
Yeah.
of injury.
Yeah, I love models. I love framing of things in pictures, So
Mm.
I've always loved the Swiss cheese model, and there's a lot of criticism about it now, and it's simplifying things too much. But our challenge is often to not only bring ideas and concepts to the managements of organizations, that's not so difficult, but is to translate those through to the frontline employee who really is in the line of fire. And if we can't really reach them in practical ways, that's a real struggle in the long run to improve optimize your safety performance. Is that a consideration that you keep in the back of your mind in researchers? How do we translate these to the front lines?
Absolutely. It's something that I think without exception, if you're not thinking of your end user, of the ultimate person who you're hoping to impact with your work, then you're missing an important piece of the puzzle. Um, uh, One thing that I've certainly found and have practiced in my own work is that if you ask something of people, then you need to make sure that you give them something back in return. And so a lot of the work that we do involves engagement with people who are at risk of being injured, who are the people who we're looking to protect through policies and programs and interventions. And you can't sort of hear that, hear what the perspective of the frontline employee in this case is, without then sort of going back and letting them know what you found and placing in context their experiences and what kind of recommendations come out of that. And I think I've seen over and over again that just telling people what to do, or just implementing a new process or a new protocol might seem like it's a step forward and will be helpful in addressing the problem that you set out to address. But without taking the time to explain to people who will be changed as a result of that new policy or program or protocol, you're missing a lot of opportunity. So that engagement with sort of people on the front lines who you're looking to protect is absolutely critical. And it both um, serves the purpose of explaining to people why you're asking them to use something different or do something different, but it also brings them into the process of change and into the process of safety, which, when we step back and think about it, the frontline workers are going to be the people who are arguably most invested in safety. And so bringing them into that process just makes all kinds of sense in terms of being effective with regard to the safety interventions that we come up with.
Yeah. A challenge for me is is a very simple challenge often. And this is actually quite widespread in the world that I'm engaged in, is that, okay, so how do we know? And I think Edward Deming, if I'm not mistaken, had this classic question always: how do you know? How do you really know? And so for me, is how do we know that a safety intervention is effective? How do we measure that? And there's so much contention about, for instance, lagging indicators, accident rates that are, spurious trends and fluctuations and false data, confounding variables that really limit our ability to say, well, we've reduced injuries because people may just report less or whatever. So that is how big a challenge is that in terms of your work, to show impact of interventions, impact of processes that you develop?
Yeah, I mean, certainly measurement is important, and as a researcher, I value that. But there's lots of ways to think about impact, and there's lots of ways to think about measurement. And certainly the ways that we've been measuring for as long as such efforts have been underway, to think about counting numbers of injuries reported, think about rates per hours worked. Those certainly make sense, but those aren't the only things that we need to be thinking about. Thinking sort of prospectively about what risks are in the workplace before those risks translate into injury is an important area of research. So, we don't need to have high numbers of people who are hurt or worse in order to respond. And being creative about our prospective look at the environments in which people are working, the tasks that they're doing, and being able to reasonably predict what risks are held within those tasks and contexts holds a lot of promise for interventions and prevention ultimately. Now that's a different kind of outcome metric
Mm,
than looking at rates of injured workers, but it's arguably a more valuable metric to say, look, we identified this high risk situation. We made the following changes, and as a result, it's a lower risk situation. Um, I think those kinds of approaches we need to make space for, so that we're not waiting for problems to happen and to respond to those problems. We know enough about, through models, through other mechanisms, we know enough to know what risk looks like. And when we see it, we should be comfortable intervening to change that risk profile and be confident that that is ultimately going to result in a healthier, safer workplace and workforce.
yeah. So risk reduction is an intermediate impact measurement in the process. And is do you use that very commonly in academic research?
Certainly, it's something that I don't know if I would say commonly, but it's something that we in our injury center like to put forward and are advocating for. A lot of times when we're looking at problems, we're asked to look at problems that are already well established, but we are certainly aware of the potential for primary prevention and the real power that can come from risk analyses that are prospective and that hold that power to prevent someone from ever being injured in the first place.
Yeah,
But we're not as oriented and appreciative of that kind of orientation as we should be, in my opinion.
yeah. A very significant part of impact in organizations, obviously, the whole impact of leadership. and models of leadership and culture, safety culture, you know, commonly thrown around as a term. Uh, Many people in organizations these days use it as if it's a given in any organization. And I believe every organization has a certain culture, a perspective, a mindset, whatever you want to call it. Um, what kind of work do you do in this field of leadership and culture?
Yeah, a lot of the work that we've done in this space of leadership and culture is sort of shows up when we're trying to understand why a particular organization, why a particular community is able to or has been successful in moving ahead with safety interventions. So, looking at sort of those model organizations or model communities and trying to figure out what went right here. How did this, sort of good outcome occur? And so often, what we see when we do that is the role of the individual and the role of leadership in that individual of promoting that kind of culture change.
Mm.
Um, we've seen that enough so that we're taking that forward again prospectively, that when we go into or invited into communities or organizations that are looking for help with regard to their safety risk, we can, talk about the importance of having the language that we often use is having a champion for safety, having a champion on this issue, someone who can sort of stand up and who is a leader or a spokesperson within the organization that can, from the inside, really advocate for attention to the risks that have been identified and attention to the strategies to mitigate those risks. So that is really how we see it show up, is a time and again trying to understand where powerful examples of change happen, seeing that it oftentimes, maybe even always, rests with an individual who takes on that leadership role, and then bringing that back to help organizations and communities realize the tremendous power that exists within people to make change and inspire change that can help so many.
That's the ultimate goal. How can we help so many out there? And I think a noble objective. And I do believe that there's such positive developments in the world of safety today that we're getting there in many ways, but a long way to go still. So that brings me to the issue of Safety on the Edge conference again. And you're one of our keynote speakers on day one. Just while we mention that, we're also going to broadcast virtually our day one to Latin America.
Mm.
We're going to have broadcasting into Brazil and all the Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America, and there's a lot of interest in that. Um, what do you believe safety professionals can expect from Johns Hopkins involvement in our conference that what they would not get at other industry conferences?
Yes, well, I think from my perspective, what I hope to bring, and I'm very excited to see you, Corey, again here in Baltimore in May. And thank you for the invitation. I'm really looking forward to participating in Safety on the Edge here in my hometown. What I hope to bring, what I'm planning to bring, is another perspective on how safety can be achieved. I am always looking for opportunities to understand problems that I've been looking at for decades through other lenses. How do other fields view a particular problem? And certainly public health has a perspective that I think will be different for many, if not most, of the attendees at Safety on the Edge. And thinking about how to adapt that perspective, the frameworks that we bring, the data sources that we have, the approaches to problem solving that we practice, somewhere in there will be a few, if not many, new ways of thinking about safety and ideas for how to bring that, how to adapt that to your own industries. So that's kind of my frame for what I'm planning to bring to the Safety on the Edge conference is a public health perspective, a public health perspective that's complemented by, the focus on injury prevention and how we can adapt that to industry needs and priorities.
Mm. So we certainly look forward to this partnership as well, and hope to bring a much closer alignment between what the academic research capabilities can bring to industry. And we want to build on this into the future with some really significant interventions, forums that we can bring together, and also bring industry closer to understanding what is available in terms of research capabilities, because I don't think we always realize that there is tremendous capability in academia that we should use much more effectively, and that's certainly one of our goals. So my last question is a little bit about the future. Um, as you always have to ask a question about the future, you know.
Yes.
So, where do you see the direction of safety, integration of safety into the workplaces, data, AI, all this phenomenally exciting concepts coming into play into safety? What is your take on that? How do you see that play out?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I think is so important when I think long term about safety, about our field, about what the future looks like, is the people who are coming behind us. And one of the things that, one of the reasons that I'm in academia, that I continue to be in academia, that I hope, well, I will end my career here, is the tremendous potential to really tap into the generations that are going to be continuing this work. And so what I see when I look to the future and think about what can come of this partnership, it's the research that we've been talking about. It's the integration of how, we approach safety from an injury perspective, from an industry perspective, and it's also an embrace of the new tools and potential that's coming along with the people who are going to be, steering the ship moving forward. So I'm always inspired by the students that we have at the School of Public Health here and the opportunity to engage with people who are not just going to be the future, but also who understand the real potential of the tools that are coming online, like AI, is something that I think is going to be tremendously impactful. So when I think ahead, what do I see? I imagine a world where industry people go to work and safety is assumed. Safety is just built into every aspect of the workplace. It's built into every aspect of the products that are produced. And I think we can achieve that through partnership and through what I see as tremendous efficiencies that are on the horizon as tools like artificial intelligence advance. One of the things that I see in terms of potential is AI really lightening the load in terms of providing faster access to data that can be analyzed. So oftentimes right now, the work of cleaning data and managing data and getting data into a format that it can be used and that it can teach us about how best to improve safety in our environments takes a tremendous amount of time, takes a tremendous amount of resources. And some of the things that I'm seeing with regard to AI coming along are that some of those times can be shortened significantly, allowing for more efficient and more timely research to be produced. But again, I think we do that hand in hand with the people who we're training to come up and take our place and carry industry and safety into the future.
Into a very bright future,
Indeed,
for
yes.
sure. Shannon, I really look forward to welcoming you into our conference in Baltimore, in your own city, on the 5th of May. You'll be speaking on the 5th of May, and hopefully you'll be able to attend the evening session when we have the gala event, and we have our lifetime awards as well to the notable academics that support safety so well. So I'm looking forward to see you there again, and all the best for you.
Thank you so much, Corrie, and I'll see you in May.
Absolutely.